I'm going to show you how to do a basic talking head setup. We are going to use a single camera with a teleprompter. We're going to light it with 3-point lighting. I'm going to show you the whole setup, starting in this blank space. It's a dance studio. They're intro videos for a dance recital. So let's get started and I'll show you what we're doing. All right, so starting with a blank surface like this, the first thing I like to do is set up my stands, because everything we're going to set up today has to go on a stand. And if the stand's not there, we can't set that thing up. So I like to bring in all my stands and just get them all rocking. You always want to put the leg of your stand facing where the light is going to face, where the weight's going to be. So that way the weight of the light is pushing against the leg and not pushing against an empty spot where it's more likely to turn over. All right, so we've got stands for our camera, our tripod here. I like to use a tripod that has a center column for stuff like this, because I'm gonna have people of various heights getting in my frame, which you'll see later. And that way I can easily raise and lower the camera without having to adjust all the legs. I've got a stand for my teleprompter. It's gonna go in front of my camera, you'll see in a bit. I've got the stand for my key light, the stand for my fill light, and the stand for my hair light. I also have the boom stand and the boom pole and my boom mic. All right, the next thing we're gonna do is set up our lights. I've got a key light, using the Amaran 300C for that. I've got 2 fill lights, using Amaran 60XS's for that. The key, I'm gonna pull from the same side as the windows, because that's the most natural fit for the room. That means the fill is gonna be opposite it. And the hair light that we're gonna use in the back is gonna come from the same side as our key light. Start with power at the light so that I can make my runs as clean as possible. So I can generally, with a lighting setup like this, run it all from one power tap, because these are LED lights and they don't pull a ton of draw. So I'll literally try to pull everything over from one power strip that I'll set on my camera later. When you're gonna have a bunch of different people walking in and out of your set, it's really important that you keep your cable runs clean. So that's part of the reason we try to organize everything this way and get power coming from as few places as possible, just so we can make our cable runs as clean as possible. So you'll see I'm gonna put this under my camera here, because eventually that's where the power strip's gonna land. All right, now these are COB lights, so they're gonna be super harsh if we just turn them straight on. What we need to do is put soft boxes on them, because what we're looking for is a soft light source that'll feature things nicely, get things nice and lit, but not be harsh and create too harsh of a shadow. I'm gonna use my biggest softbox on my key light, because I want it to be the biggest, softest source. I use a 5-foot Octabox from Glow for this. But you could also shoot this key through a 4x4 or a 12x12 or whatever you wanted to. You just use less stands this way. You might ask why I wouldn't just use the window light for this. Part of that is because it's 3 o'clock right now. This shoot's gonna go for several hours. I'm not gonna have control over that light and how it's gonna be changing outside. So while it could be really nice to use natural light, in a setting like this, I need control. So I'm gonna re-light them with this and pretend like it's the window light. That's why we need it to be such a large, soft source. Then for my fill light and my hair light, I use much smaller soft boxes, because these lights just aren't going to do as much work for us. They don't need to be as soft, but we do want to soften them up some, because again, these COB lights by themselves will be very harsh. Now that our soft boxes are all on, we're going to get power to our lights. For smaller gigs, I bring this bag. It's got all kinds of power accessories in it, power strips, power nodes, extension cords. Bigger gigs, I have a much bigger case. Just always take enough power stuff, because you just never know what kind of runs you're gonna have to make. So make sure you have enough, more than enough with you. It's gonna save you headaches a lot of times. I'm gonna start with a multi-tap power node under my camera position. I'm gonna work my way over to these plugs on the ground here from these other 2 lights. I'm gonna insert another node here so I can plug up both that node over there and these 2 lights to it. And then finally, I'm gonna plug that node into the wall here. One note to make is you generally don't want to try to pull power from anywhere in your frame. So if you've got power outside of frame, that's typically where you want to pull it from. That's why I'm pulling from this position over here and not from any of the outlets on that back wall or anywhere else. I've made one power run. I've got power to all my places now. So let's get our lights on and let's get them configured. The general rule of thumb for lighting is that you want lights to be 45 degrees from your subject, both in terms of their height and how far they are to the side. So if I'm gonna have my subject about here, I want that key light to hit me from a 45 degree angle that way. I want this light to hit me from a 45 this way. And I want this hair light to hit me from a 45 degree angle back there. We can mess with the intensities of those lights and tweak them, which we will. With these Amaran lights, that's really convenient because they work with the Sidus Link app. And I've got them loaded up in there, and we can easily tweak them. All right, that's gonna at least be our starting point before we get up camera and actually take looks through the camera. Sorry I had to jostle you around a little there, move the camera a bit so you could see around that hair light that we set up. Gonna be setting up our camera now. So this is a Sony FX3. I have a Sony 24-70mm G Master version 2 lens, and I am using the audio handle because we're gonna plug an XLR mic into it for our boom mic. For stuff like this, I try to bring along a second monitor. Not necessarily for my own sake, but a lot of times that'll let me flip it around and show the client what they're looking like. Because sometimes your client wants to see what they look like. The last two things we have to set up are our teleprompter and our boom mic. This is the Sanken CSM1 boom mic. It's a pretty high-end professional boom. You could use something much more cost-effective if you wanted to, but there's not much in my bag that beats the off-axis rejection of these mics, meaning I don't have anything that eliminates side and back noise nearly as much as this mic does. So I use it every chance I get. For the last thing, our teleprompter. Alright, so we're done. Today we did a talking head setup in a dance studio. We started with a complete blank slate. We brought in our 3-point lighting system, our key, our fill, our hair light. We brought our Sony FX3 rig in. We brought in our boom mic. It's going to be a great shoot. Hope you enjoyed the video.